innovative, but deeply rooted in the realities of women they serve. Dr. Patience is passionate about shifting narratives, influencing policy, and creating systems that work better for women globally. So let's welcome Dr. Patience with a round of applause. I think that she's doing amazing work for, amazing work considering the challenges, right? Solving for healthcare, especially in Black communities, solving for healthcare in underserved communities. So, Dr. Patience, welcome to this live stream.
Thank you very much, Yoma. I appreciate the warm welcome. Thank
Thank,
you.
thank you. Maybe we start off with telling us about what Mylora is, and also your work. Share a little bit more beyond what's in your bio about what you're doing with Mylora and what you're doing with Mom and Me Foundation, and what inspired you to start necessarily. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, just like you've said, you've spoken briefly about Mylora. Mylora is a Femtech platform that supports Black women through their reproductive health journey. So starting from pregnancy, periods, pregnancy, and postpartum. And one of the reasons why we built that app is because of the high rates of maternal mortality among Black women, and what the statistics shows. Even when you look at the statistics in the UK, in the US, Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die during pregnancy than any other group of women. When you also look at the statistics, in Africa and all of that, you notice like it's the same thing for Black women all over. That's the reason why we started building Mylora. So our first product is an app that we've built that will support women through their period tracking and pregnancy tracking, and relearning, with insights, with education. Was one of the things we've noticed, that there's a huge gap when it comes to getting the right information. There's information everywhere, don't get me wrong, but where do people go to when they need education on their health? And we know that if Black women then understand what is going on with their bodies, even risks when it comes to hereditary things like fibroids, why Black women have it more, what are the things you need to do to prevent it. So that's why we built that app. So on the app you get education, you learn about your body, you learn about how fibroid or PCOS, endometriosis, how it affects you as a Black woman, some of the signs that you need to look out for. Also, aside from the app that we built, we also have a community we're building alongside it. So in our community, we have Black women from different areas of life, where we discuss about our health, our realities. We have different webinars, lived experiences, because one of the key things that we included when building Mylora is the importance of lived experiences. Because if you have people who have experienced some of the things that young girls are struggling with, then you understand what to do better, or even understand, oh, this is what I need to do to prevent this, or these are the risks that is there for Black women. So lived experiences. For example, this weekend we're doing something called lived experiences, share your real story. So women who have gone through different things have the chance to share their stories. So that's one of the core things that we do when it comes to building Mylora. How Mylora started. So just like you said, I'm a founder of Mom and Me Foundation, which is an NGO, and which is rooted in maternal health. So working with communities, most of the work is actually in Nigeria. So what we do is we work in the northern area, where there's a high number of maternal mortality. So even when it comes to lack of access to healthcare, or lack of education, or cultural stigmas and all of that, our work is rooted in SDG 3 and SDG 4, which is how do we use quality education to be able to educate women in those areas, using their local languages, educate them on how to take care of their health. Like for example, in Gombe State in Nigeria, one of the issues or the reason for high mortality rate is low turnout when it comes to antenatal care. So what we started doing is looking at why is it that women don't go for antenatal care? What is the reason, and then we found that there are different things. Some women do not believe in antenatal care. Some women depend on men and, their husbands, and their husband do not believe that antenatal care, is a waste of money, is a waste of time. You don't have to do that. So is then what are those barriers that is already there? I know the government is doing a lot of work, people are doing so much work, but then what can we do to support that work? And that was what fueled what we are doing with Mylora. And so that's more of like our community work with the foundation. But the Mylora is like the digital aspect of things. Is how do we reach more women using digital tools, but also how are we going to build something through the lens of culture? Because when you look at even disparities when it comes to healthcare, for example, in the UK, you find that the reason why some women experience what they experience because of lack of understanding of culture. And culture plays a big role when it comes to Black women's health, what people understand, how people perceive care, how people receive care. You can't take away culture from all of that. So that was why we built Mylora through the lens of culture.
Thank you so much, Dr. Patience, for that background into the work you're doing at My Laura and the foundation.
Thank you.
My first question is: you are a practicing medical doctor, right? And you're doing all these other things, right? Most people, struggle to maintain even one thing. Talk more of, all these multiple things, right? I would say you're a multi-passionate person, although everything is kind of in the same sector, right? How did you arrive at this? Did you pre-decide that this is how you would navigate your life, or it happened on you? How did you start? Like, how did you even get here?
Um, I know I get that question a lot. So presently, I'm actually not in clinical medicine. It's something that I have. Yeah, I'm not in clinical medicine. I using my skills in different things, so in digital health, growth strategies. I feel like I've done a lot of things. So I'm doing a lot of things, but then I think it's all about understanding where your passion lies. One of the things is that people are, I think, scared to explore, or when people, I would say, get a degree, or have like go through the traditional paths, people are scared what will happen if I kind of deviate a bit. But I think what I did was, how do I understood my skills, what's my medical skills that I have that can be transferable to something else, what skills can I, how can I blend my public health experience with my medical skills to build something, or to penetrate into different markets. One of the things that I do also is like, I would say project management. But at the end of the day is what understanding what your passions are, understanding that where is the gap that I want to fill. So I'm a medical doctor. With being a medical doctor, what aspect of medicine do I want to focus on? So people go into practice, specialty, and all of that. For me, I really enjoyed public health. I knew I wanted to prevent, things. I wanted to build something that would support women. Especially during my masters, I I was really drawn to maternal health and all of that. And during my research, the statistics that I saw, especially for Black women's health, it really shocked me. And I was like, this is something I wanted to do. But mixing, building a startup at the same time, an NGO at the same time, work and all of that is a lot. Is a lot. But what I did was just prioritize, understand what are the key pillars. So I have a startup. This is what needs to be done with this. I have a foundation. This is what needs to be done with it. What are the things I need to plan for the next 1 year? What are these things that we need to put in place? So it's not something I have to wake up every day wondering what we are doing. So I know that this is what the direction of the startup, this is the direction of what we are doing with the platform. In the next 3 months, for example, we need to get 5,000 users, the Black women that will use the app. Then I create a roadmap, to achieve that. And then also not working alone, having people. For example, I'm not in Nigeria at the moment, so I cannot be there physically to do some of this work. It's building a team, making people understand the vision that I have, that this is what we need to get done. This is the direction we're taking in the next 1 year. Break it down into weekly bits, or this is what we need to get done. And then people jump on it. All I'm doing is basically strategizing, making sure those things are implemented. And when it comes to the app as well, is breaking it down, having weekly meetings, making sure I'm on top of that. But having a calendar, it also helps because I think when I started, I was really, on top of it. Like, I know what I need to do. I know what I know I need to be in this meeting by 4 o'clock and all of that. But I started losing, little bits started falling off. So what I did was also build a structure around, this is my calendar. I know this is where I need to be by this time. This is the meeting I need to get on by this time. And all of that. I think the team has also been helpful to make sure that we are on top of things. Yes, I want it.
Yes, thank you for that. I think one key thing I want to take away is you are really talking about how even when we get degrees, even when we
Yeah.
learn something, we should think about it beyond just that degree, beyond just that certificate. Is it transferable to other areas of life, right? Is there something
Yeah.
that you want to work on that this skill might be relevant to in whatever way, shape, or form? Really, that's how we able to transfer some of these skills. Yeah, I also did public health in school, but I never thought about having a health startup. But so you
Yeah.
see a different view, to
Yeah.
look at some of the skills that you have can, lead you to doing something else that is remarkable. Yeah. My next question is really for both my Laura and for Mama Me Foundation. You really focus on underserved people, right? And I don't know if this was I would, from hearing you speak, I also think that maybe that was intentional. But my question here is also for people that, the theme of our community is how do ordinary people become, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people, even as Nigerians, and I live in Nigeria, we see a lot of problems, right? How does someone pick a problem to solve, right? And what do people do, right? You know all the 10 things. If you ask every average Nigerian, they can give you a speech of all the things that are wrong with the country. But most times they are not sure of, okay, what is your role, which one can you solve. They are not sure of how to pick a problem to solve. Or people also quickly take on things, start up and drop it because things will get tough, right? How do you navigate that, choosing what is the right thing to solve so that you can be with it for the long run? And when you are also challenged about, like, do I keep on going with this or do I drop it off? How do people navigate that?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. When it comes, especially when it comes to, because there's a lot of problems, when you think about it, even if you're talking about healthcare, there's so many things, and how do you know which one you should, which one you should go for? I think there's no, I don't have like a specific answer for that because it depends on different things. And for me, I've always had a passion or say soft spot for women, even though I didn't know what exactly that was. Back then, when I was in medical school, we started something called Substantial Woman with my friend. What we do was just to gather women, talk about, just empowering women, talking about women. There was no direction actually. There was nothing specific. It was just that was it. Like we just wanted to encourage women. I always knew I was passionate about making people's lives better. I just didn't know how. And then that was when, like, with time, with different things, it kind of niched down to Black women. So, to your first question, how I chose Black women as, my niche. So, it was a collection of different things. Sometimes people want to figure it out immediately. Sometimes vision become clearer. I know people who started with something and then along the line it got clearer and then they niche it down to, okay, this is not what I want to do, niche it down to something else. But for me, it was when I was doing my public masters in public health. That was when it became. I just knew, yes, this is it. Like it's Black woman. I knew I wanted to do something, but what was it? I didn't know. But when I did my research on postpartum depression and then the limitations to identifying it in African women, it opened my eyes. I was looking at the data, I was looking at the statistics. I was like, this is actually a gap. This is a problem. What's being done about it. I started doing research. What are the NGOs? What are the solutions that is there out there at the moment? I then noticed that when it comes to Black women, there's a lot of generic apps, but it doesn't really, with the kind of issues or the kind of statistics showing the issues with Black women, we need something that finally sees us and understand the struggles that we have. But we didn't, that wasn't there. So I just, I then thought, you know what, how about we fill this gap because this is something I've seen. But for different people, and also thinking about digital health, apps that I've used, I've always kind of had this question of, okay, what about some of the things that Black women, because it's generic, you go to an app, they tell you should eat this, um, eat some broccoli or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't really connect. If let's say a woman in Nigeria who doesn't really care about broccoli, that's not what she eats on a daily. How would she connect that with her health? Someone dealing with PCOS, something like that. So that was how I came to that. But I think for people is you need to look within. There are things that you do or things that you just naturally get drawn to, you know. issues. So let's say even as a medical doctor, and that's why we have specialties. When you're doing your general medical training, you do everything, and you find that there's something you're being drawn to, and then people then decide, I want to be a gynecologist, I want to be a pediatrician, and all of that. So that's something you're drawn to. So even in different areas, let's say you are drawn to tech, or you're working doing tech, there's something in that thing that you just find that you have passion with, and then within that thing that you have passion for is to then look for what are the gaps in it. Sometimes people feel like building something is like you have to build something new something new that has not existed before. When you think about it, people have different things that they've already built, but it's then look at the gap in that thing. So let's say if I'm really excited about, actually, you know what, there's a lot of people now, let's say, building in solutions for connecting somebody to a doctor. You just connect yourself, connecting with a doctor from your home. And then you're like, oh, that's something I'm really interested in. But you think, this is something a lot of people have done. No, there's something within that space that somebody has not thought of. And it's bringing somebody's idea and thinking about it deeply. What is missing? What's the gap here? So people delay doing something because they feel like it's already there. There's nothing I can do about it. But how do you make it better? What's that thing that you can do that will differentiate it from what someone else has built? And also looking at what is around you. What's that thing? I think it's always just being attentive to the problem. There's always a problem somewhere. Even when there's a solution, there's a gap within that solution most of the time. So it's just being sensitive to that thing, and then being drawn. Understanding what's that thing you're drawn to. And then I think you asked something about when challenges start. There's always going to be challenges. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where or what you're building in healthcare, fintech, anything you build. There's always going to be doubt. There's always going to be what if. There's always going to be days where you're like, I've had enough. I am taking that. I just can't do this. But what keeps people going is, that's what I'm saying. When you understand what the problem is, that's number one. And secondly, when you are passionate about something, passion drives you. But I know that passion is not what takes you to the, always makes you successful. It's a drive. Because when you have passion for something, it drives you. But consistency is what keeps you to become successful. Even when things are tough, when you know that, what, I can't do this anymore. For me, what keeps me going, for example, is when I think about the Black woman, the data, the statistics, and that's why I always read about what's going on. I'm always online searching what's happening with a Black woman in the UK. That alone pushed me, like, because of this problem, because of this person, I need to keep going. I have to keep going. I cannot give up, because even if it's one Black woman who is saved by just using our app, one Black woman that we can reach out to, educate her on her body, and she makes the right decision, then I'm fulfilled. So I think for young people, it's not thinking about what I need to get success, and then it's that thing of you need to come fast. I need to be successful. If I start and I don't see results in 6 months, I can't do it. I have to just leave it. No, success is a journey. When you look at you building something as a journey, you enjoy it. You don't have to look at the next 5 years. Yes, you have 5 years plan, but if you can do it in the next 1 week, what's that thing I can get done in the next 1 week? What's the next thing I need to get done in the next 1 month? Then that is also success. Celebrating your milestones, your little yes, or and all of that. It's also the belief in yourself. The belief in yourself, because you have to believe in that product or that thing you're building. Even when nobody sees it, the vision is your vision. So you have to be crazy about that vision. I believe in this thing. Even when nobody sees it, I believe it's going to work. So that belief you have in yourself, when the days are tough, when everything is, you're losing you're losing your mind, something is crashing, something is not happening, everything is going wrong. You remember why you started, but also that belief in your products. I think for young people, it's not seeing success as, sometimes you look at people who are successful as people who are extraordinary. It's just ordinary people who choose to believe in themselves first, and also choose to recklessly, I would say, go for what they believe they can achieve.
Thank you for that final thoughts. You nailed it. Successful people are just ordinary people who believed so much in themselves and recklessly chose to go after what they believed in, right? And I think thank you so much for. I think I don't have anything to add to that. You really,
Thank you.
hit the nail on the head. My next question is really about, we know the what's happening with the Nigerian healthcare system, right? I think someone was also like dragging something online about how there's only, is it 10,000, maybe 1,000 MRI machines, and there's a state that doesn't have any MRI machine. And every day we hear, or even from our family members who visited the hospital or ourselves, the challenges with the current Nigerian healthcare system, right? So, what has been the moment for you where you are like, okay, maybe I need to stop this, maybe I need to quit, maybe someone else can take it up, I've done my own bit, and maybe I just need to. But has there ever been that moment for you, right, when you seriously considered quitting?
That's I've not thought about that before. No one has asked me that. I don't think. Obviously, there are days where I'm like, I just want to forget that I'm building something. That day where I'm just like, today I'm not fond of anything. I just want to chill, watch a movie, just go out of that that reality because I don't want to think about something. I don't want to, I'm just stressed about it at that time. But I don't think I've had the time where I'm like, okay, I am actually giving up on this. I quit or I'm about to quit. I don't think I've had that. What I do is when it gets tough, I just say, I need to relax. I just need to find my happiness, if it's taking a work, if it's taking a work, going out, just chilling and pretending everything is fine. But I think because of the only problem is that when you look at the massive problem, even in Nigeria, when it comes to healthcare, and you look at everything that is not going right, because what exactly do you focus on? Do you focus on the fact that a lot of local communities in Nigeria do not have access to right healthcare? Or is it the state of some primary healthcares in Nigeria? Or is it the fact that we don't have machines, just like you said, for different things? Or is it the fact that we don't even have enough doctors? 55,000 doctors for how many million Nigerians do we have? That's really a pandemic on its own. So when you look at these problems, like there's a massive problem, and one person cannot fix that. We need a revolution in the healthcare system. We need policies that reflect the issues we're having. Even when you look at policies around women's health in Nigeria, we are still far behind. When you look at as little as maternity leave in Nigeria, you look at most people implementing 3 months. You think about that, when we have maybe countries where we have 1 year, and even that 1 year, people are advocating for better, maternity leave for women. Then you see that the problem is massive. You cannot solve that problem. And that's what I tell myself. I can't solve everything. I just do what I can do. And sometimes the reason why people are scared to start or want to give up is that, what can I do? Even if I do this, the problem is too huge. I'm sorry, I can't. And they run away from it. But imagine if a number of people or, group of people start doing bit by bit. Let's say I handle maternal care, and tomorrow you're like, you know what? The problem I want to face or what I want to start building for is the lack of access to healthcare, and then someone else has built an agency that advocates for better facilities in the hospitals. Before you know it, we have a group of people who are advocating for different things, creating solutions that would form that would help us to have better healthcare and better healthcare outcomes in Nigeria. So my own is, what is that thing I'm interested in? What is the thing that I can do to cause change? What's those little things that I can do? Say advocating for Black women, creating policies in my community, educating people. That's what I can do. Then I focus on that. But it's because of everything that's going on. My own, anytime I speak to people, because we as Africans, I would say, or let me bring it down to Nigeria, it's most of the times you have these problems, we talk about them and we run away from it. Yeah, this is happening. And you feel like it's not, you feel like it's not your business. You're talking about maternal health, and someone's like, okay, people detach themselves from the solution. And I don't blame us. It's a way of survival. Because if you think about it, you might lose your mind, because the problems are so much. But it's we understanding that nobody's going to solve this problem for us. The government cannot do it alone, and even we've been depending on that for a long time. Has it changed? No, it hasn't. So it's having that mindset of I play a part, I play a part in where we want to take healthcare. For example, in Nigeria, what's the little thing that I can do? In what ways can I advocate for women? And that's something I always say, even in our webinars when talking about Black women's health. Sometimes we think it's not a problem until it happens to someone next to us, your sister, your mother, your friend, your wife, when she goes to the hospital and they tell you, we don't have oxygen in this hospital. And then, there's not, even if you have the whole money, there's nothing you can do. So it's all our business. It's our collective responsibility to do all of that. But for me, I just look at what I need to do to cause this change. So nothing really about, we are here to stay. We're not giving up. We are until change comes.
Thank you for saying that. And one thing that you really helped us to reframe was that most times, even when you have that feeling, right?
Yeah.
Most times what you do is rest. And I think the concept of rest, I'm not sure if we've come to understand what it means, especially with I think our Black community is synonymous with hustling, right? And grinding. They've even added grinding on top of the hustling. Right? So people have no concept of rest. And they think that also there's also a misconception that rest comes when you've achieved the stuff. And people are like, let me hustle now. When I'm old, I will rest. Like, but
Yeah.
you wouldn't like, if you are really sure of where you're going, like that's not where rest comes. And maybe you just touch a little bit on that. The importance of like rest not being a destination, being something that happens, throughout your journey so that you can keep going.
Thank you for adding that.
Yeah. So the other question I was going to, I don't know if you have anything to say on rest, I think before I move on.
Not really. I believe I agree with what you've said. Rest has solved a lot of problems for me. Once I rest, sleep, wake up the next day, and I'm like, okay, now I feel fresh. Now I can think, more clearly. So yeah, I encourage people to rest.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you also touched a little bit on this, and maybe you should also share more, or even for healthcare, kind of give instances. Like you sit at the intersection of like policy, technology, and healthcare, right? And you were saying earlier, when people think about all the problems with Nigeria, for example, or with the Black community, or with a particular sector, we see all the challenges, right? And most times people think that their own contribution needs to be dramatic, right? It needs to be
Yeah.
something outstanding. And you've also touched on it earlier about how it doesn't necessarily have to be a new solution. And that's also the thing. People are thinking that, I need to do something that if people hear it today,
Yeah.
what would you say, for example, in the healthcare sector, in the Black community, what would you say is an ordinary or a simple thing that you think that people that are interested in the health that are watching us, can actually work on, right? If people are looking for
Yeah.
ideas, what are the simple things? It doesn't need to be dramatic. What are the simple things that people can do, or what are the areas that we all need to actually pay attention to in case people are not also paying attention to that?
Okay. There's actually, there's actually a lot. But thinking about Black women's health, because in as much as these days, even on LinkedIn, on social media, I see a lot of things advocacy for Black women, which is really good. I see a lot of people building communities, which is really good. Talking about some of the things that our parents maybe didn't really talk about, or they were not even really aware of. I'm seeing videos about advocacy in hospitals and all of that. I think something as little as creating a movement, teaching Black women how to advocate for themselves in the hospital is actually powerful. It sounds like this is what everybody should know how to do. This is something. But you see that a lot of times people go to the hospital, they don't even know the right questions to ask. You're pregnant. Okay, they tell you, you know what, this is your test. Okay, you run a test. You don't even ask what this test means. They give you a medication. You don't even know, you don't know it, but you just trust. I'm not saying that some of the things they give is, let's say doctors give you isn't right sometimes. What I'm trying to say is that you need to understand is your body. You have the right to know what this means. What does this test mean? So a lot of people go to the hospital every time they have blood tests, but they don't even care to read it. Once the doctor say this is normal, don't worry, this is what, they don't know what it means. I don't care, you just leave it. So the reality is that there's this, people feel like their health and them is two different people. When it comes to healthcare, it's not my, I just go to the hospital. Yeah, if I'm sick, they give me medication. That's okay. But that's one big gap we have in the Black community, or the Black health care system. Because even as I'm building, that was when I understood that there's a big gap when it comes to advocacy. Black women don't know what to ask when they go to the hospital. When someone tells them it's normal, they don't ask who is it normal for. What is that? What does this mean? People don't know the test that they should ask for as a Black woman. Okay, you're having period pains, you're having this. What is the test I should ask? I should ask for. So because of that, I think last 2 weeks we were having some, argument, and it was about how someone was blaming our parents for not passing down information when it comes to our bodies. And one thing I told the person was like, how can you pass on what you don't even know or what you don't understand? Because if I don't know something, or I didn't know how to advocate for myself, or healthcare for me was just something that we saw, it was something not foreign, but something that was there in the hospital. I deal with it there and I let it go. I come back home, how do you then hold that person accountable for what they don't know? They didn't pass it on to us, because there was a stigma also. When you think about things like period, when you think about when period parts and everything was even when it started getting advertised on TV, when you look at the year women had the right to do some of those things, we need to cut some slacks when it comes to our parents, But what I'm trying to say is that things like advocacy plays a big role, and that is something that somebody can start a movement teaching Black women how to advocate for themselves in the hospital, teaching women the kind of tests that they should ask for when they're having irregularities in during that period, things that Black women should do when they have things like fibroids. What are the tests I should ask for? What are the things I need to say in vulnerable states when you're pregnant? What are some of the things that you need to make sure that you put in place? Another thing is, like for my Lura, what we do is we include the men in what we are building, because you cannot create, or say you're educating women and you take away the men. Men are part of the society. Most men are going to end up being fathers. Most women, when they are pregnant, they go to the hospital. Who stands for them, make decisions for them? It's men. So if a man doesn't know what's going on, if a man doesn't know how to advocate for you when you are sick, then, or when you're pregnant, when you're in a vulnerable state, it means we end up having, men making bad decisions for women, men, ending up risking the lives of their wives or, girlfriends or something like that. So even if it's someone creating something, I'm making a movement for men, including in the healthcare, how do we include this in the healthcare system? So things like that sounds, okay, this is not going to be a big movement. As little as that is, it doesn't have to be dramatic, because people want to just sit and create a solution that is not, this is just like you said, something really big that I'm here to change the world. But as little as that, you don't know how far it will go. So it's those little gaps that you look out for. And I think for me, what I do also is, when I see someone building something, I look at it closely. Is it an app? I download it, I use it, and I'm thinking about it strategically. Like, okay, what is missing here? Or from this, they've done a wonderful job. What are some of the things that I think I can learn from this app and replicate? Even when you look at some Western apps that have been built, how do I think about how to make it local for the people in my community, people in Nigeria? Just as having an app that has languages. How do we build? So people don't think about that, but there are people that don't speak English, even in Nigeria or other places. How do I bring those solutions? Now that when you look at the market size for people that have phones, so for example, in Nigeria, we have about 65 million women who have access to phones that can have app and internet. 65 million is a large number. Think about solutions that's being built for women somewhere else. How do I localize it for the people around me? So I think those are the things that people... I don't know if I've answered all your questions.
I think you have, and I think anyone listening to this who is in the health sector, you've actually, like nailed one key place: patient self advocacy. And I like how I think is bringing back my knowledge of public health, that is one of the key things, that an educated patient is much better. And I also think there's the clash between, your patient knowing more than the doctor, but an
Yeah,
educated patient, it benefits the entire healthcare system, right? They
yeah,
know why they need to follow the regimen. They know why they can't skip the drugs. They know why they should
mm,
come for the appointment. That benefits the entire healthcare system, right? And you must be able to advocate for yourself in front of your doctor ask questions and know what to ask. I think anyone listening to this is a cheap a cheap way into the building something that is impactful. The other aspect that you put on you that you nailed here too is also including the men. And we've seen a lot of times, it's all over social media, how especially when women are in vulnerable state, it's typically the men that make those decisions. If they don't know what, why, the implications of all those decisions they're going to make a dangerous decision for you when you are vulnerable, not conscious, in surgery and things like that. So I look, someone needs to work on this thing, whether it's an app or whatever it is. I vote for it, and it will be useful across all clients. Actually, it will be
Mm,
useful across. I think this is a big issue. Patient self-advocacy. I know in Nigeria we started the whole patient rights thing, but it's just a paper
mm.
on the wall that
Yeah,
people read, like they don't have agency to implement it. They say as a patient you have a right. You're like saying, are you sure?
true, true.
Yeah. This is a good one. This is a good one.
Thank
So one of the next questions is for anyone watching this right now, right? I love inspiring people, but I'm also like pro action. And a lot of people, when you speak with them, they have ideas. People have ideas. They want to do this. And people even message and say they want funding. I tell people most times it's not funding, right?
you.
What do people do when they have between when they have their idea and the next thing, like the next
Mm,
72 hours, the first concrete step? Because most times that's also where I think that's a fragile period, right?
true.
What do people do? People who have been sitting on their idea for a long while, what do they do from now till Monday morning? What do you think they can start doing now?
Okay, for me, once I have an idea, the first thing I do is I write it down immediately. So once the idea comes to my mind, it might not be clear. I just quickly find a place. I always have books around me, and all of. But now we have phones, so you don't even have an excuse. Even if you have a book or pen, you have a phone. Go to your notes, anything. Type that idea immediately, because sometimes the idea drops, and then you're like, oh, that's wonderful. Later I'll do something about it. You get busy and you forget. Or even if you don't forget, it might just be that you don't remember it exactly the way it comes, because idea is like, sometimes I feel like idea is like spirit, it moves around. If you don't grab it that time, it goes to someone else. So it's once you have an idea, the first thing is to write it down. Make sure it's not somewhere first. But then the time between the idea and the execution shouldn't be too long. Most times people want to start something when they figured it all out. Okay, I have this idea, and what is the magical what's the word, what's that thing you say, the dramatic way I'm going to create this idea and launch it, and it's going to be that big. I'm going to bring people together in a room, we're going to have an event, cheers to this. All of those things is unnecessary. The first thing is you have that. Thank God now we have ChatGPT. We have a lot of AI tools. You have an idea, you quickly find, okay, what are these? How do I refine it? You put it somewhere, start thinking about it. But what I do, or what people don't do when they have an idea is, once you have the idea, go online, you put it down, and go and look for, is there something like that exists? You know, is there people who are already in that space? So let's say I want to build a tech product or a I want to go into digital health, and an idea just dropped from nowhere, and I'm thinking about, I'm like, oh, this, okay, I've written it down. What's the next thing I need to do? Go online, find people who are in that space. It doesn't cost so much, just send someone a message. Because sometimes they're like, this person might not reply, but you'd be surprised. When I started out, because imagine coming from a clinical background and a preventive background, public health. I was never in tech. I didn't know anything about building a tech product. I was never in digital health. I just started learning about it. I was in people's DM. I was sending people messages like, hi, hello. I don't know if you have this one I'm trying to build. If you have 15 minutes, a lot of people willingly told me, oh yeah, we can. And I learned so much from people. I had I messaged one person who has ended up being my mentor when we were building our foundation. Like, this idea I have, I can see a consultant. I just needed, some advice from you on those things. And he gave me 30 minutes of his time, told me where to start from, what I needed to. So something that would have taken me maybe 6 months to even know what to do. gave me idea, told me the first project I can do, and then encouraged me to, to do all of that. So it's finding, you don't have to do it all on your own. There are people there. Thank God we have social media, we have LinkedIn, we have YouTube. People are always, there's videos there telling you where to start from. But then you write the idea, start looking for people, and now, because now that we have social media, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, it's easy for you to go and create an account and start posting. When we started Mom and Me, I didn't know what that was good. I just knew it was maternal health. I just knew the location I was going to do it. I just knew the first project we were going to do. After that, I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to register an NGO. I didn't know what I needed to do. What was the planning process? What is the structure of the I just started doing it. I wrote the idea, started meeting, looking for people to speak to them, that would give me advice, created an account, went to Canva, created a logo, put it on there, put what the thing is going to is all about. Because the thing is that once that drive comes and the momentum is there, that first few space, once you miss it at that stage, sometimes you miss it, it's gone. So you just put it there. There's Canva, that's free. Put it out there. Maternal childhood, we are changing the direction of, we are changing, we're making an impact when it comes to women's health. Start creating posts as you're figuring it out. Start locating people. Who do I need to speak to? It doesn't have to be people you know. Sometimes people you know might not even be there to support you. Go on LinkedIn, go on Instagram, meet people, speak to people. That was how I started building what I was building, by just giving myself the audacity to start without figuring it out. So it's people to just make sure they put all of these things in place and then do it imperfect. So I think that's where people should start when they have an idea.
Thank you for saying this. Do it imperfectly. We all want it to be perfect. I think that was something I learned last year. I'm like, whether the picture is not fine, whether the post is not okay, just post it. Just continue. Just keep moving forward. And people struggle a lot with that perfectionism.
Yeah.
It's crazy, especially when you're in the early phase. It's not the time. It's not,
True.
You need momentum, not perfect picture.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, And yeah, sometimes I kind of post things that if I come back, I'm like, why did I post this? I was like, at least I have posted, I have improved,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I think we're
True.
obsessed too much about perfectionism. Right. So we have a question here, right? Most people
Yeah.
talk about scale, right? And I think this is applicable especially to my Laura, like apps, applicable to programs. Some people are running programs, especially for underserved people. And they are talking about, oh, I've reached so many thousand people. So I've reached this, we've done these programs. What is something that you have done or something that you have seen with both of your works that you have chosen deliberately not to scale? To just leave it small how it is, and how it is at the scale or the pace at which it's growing is fine by it. You're not going to scale this, maybe not now, or but like maybe in the future.
Interesting. Oh, okay. What's that thing deliberately choose not to scale? I'm thinking of Mama Me. I'm thinking about my Laura. Finding the right, the right one to talk about. But I think, so when we started Mama Me, we had more than 2 SDGs, right? We had quality education, good health and well-being, and what's the other one? I can't. Family, or was it girls? Something I can't remember. But we had more. I think we had over 5 SDGs, and then we started programs, started activities, which was good. We had like a 6 or 8 weeks program where we were training advocates how to advocate for pregnant women, all of this kind of things. But I think one of the things that I deliberately not kind of push so much to do is, for one of our projects that we did, which was, we did a project where we trained young people, right? We're training young people to understand their bodies, their health and all of it. So it was like going to be like an event that we planned on replicating it every single year. We gather women, girls, we speak to them about their bodies, we give them room to talk about it. It wasn't that it was a bad idea or a bad project. It was just that I figured that if we continue that project, because we just did it once and I was like, I don't think it's something that we should scale. It wasn't bad. People showed up for it. But I just felt like there was better ways that we can create or work on the project? Because this question is talking about impact and scaling and impacting the lives of people. Sometimes you have ideas. It's not like it's bad, but it's just that it's not the time for it to be done. I felt like it was rushed at the time we did it. It was rushed. So I didn't really see the impact. It made impact, for a certain degree, with the women that showed up and what they said. But then, as we had that project, another idea came, which I felt it was going to be an umbrella of this particular idea. And then from there, if we then build that structure and then implement this project, it's going to get more to people, but not just more to people, it's going to be sustainable. Because one thing with NGOs is that you can start a program, but you'll see that there's no good sustainable plan for it to be, to be replicated, or for it to make that impact. Because what's the aim if I do a project or an event and then that's the end of it? How do we, because what we want to be something that even when we are not there, even when I am not there, something that can be replicated. So we paused it for a while. And I think after that, we didn't even have projects. That was like within last year down to beginning of this year. So what I did was we went back, started building the structures, because I was like, we cannot run Mom and Me on just project here and there without building the fundamentals of what is actually the core thing that Mom and Me Foundation stands for. And then from there, any project we do connects back to this core thing. Once you don't have that figured out, we cannot be playing around, with project here and project there. Even when it comes to funding, nobody funds something that is not sustainable. Because if I fund you and you do this project, can you show me how it will make impact to reduce maternal mortality in northern Nigeria in the next 10 years? You can't actually give anything. So I think that's one of the things that we didn't scale, and that's the reason why.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. What I would take from here is really what you said about, yes, execute your ideas, right? But there are some ideas that require, when you execute it, you also figure out that it's not that you failed and it's not that there's anything wrong with the project. It's just that maybe it's not the right time. It distracts from your main goal. If you start pursuing it, someone also talked about, especially for ambitious people and people who have ideas, all your ideas, if you execute all of them, you'll never like the way your life is going, because you'll be pulled here and there by like so many
I can
things,
relate.
right?
I can relate because I'm always up to something. I know I was telling someone, I was like, have you noticed that I'm always up to something? I'm always up to something. There's always an idea to do. And sometimes you need to just put yourself down and say, you need to calm down because this is not the time for it. I'm always up to something. This idea pops up. We need to get it done. And because the time I have between having an idea and execution is really short. So I can have an idea and next week I'm like, yes, team, let's get it done. People are like, calm down. This is a good idea, but I don't think we've reached, the time to execute. So yeah, you're right. All right.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So that can be both ways, right? Execute
Yeah.
your ideas, but also know that there are times, seasons, and it might distract you, right? And what you said, ideas, and maybe the idea you are picking is not your own. Someone was describing it one that said ideas are like they are in the stratosphere. It's open. Anybody that is open hears it. Maybe it's not yours to execute, right?
True.
Especially if it distracts from your goals. Sometimes it's not yours to execute, because people will also be under pressure to kind of go over executing. They're doing things and they are all active and busy all through the year. And at the end of the year, it's like, what have I done with it?
True, like someone was telling me on my Lyra app, he was like, actually, he's thinking about something. He's noticed that this app doesn't have anything for men. How about we push something there for men? And for a second, I was thinking about it. I was like, And then I was like, no, I was like, no, that's not for me to execute. If men want something like that, they should go and figure it out. Or it's not my own job to do.
Yeah. Also, maybe share a bit on that, because I think that's also the other aspect, right? Being able to say no. No to ideas. It can also be your own ideas. Holding off on ideas, saying, okay, I will do this now, saying like, that is not my cup of tea. It's a good idea. Somebody else should do it, right?
You do it.
But that's not my cup of tea. Sometimes you also feel bad, or like you feel you are leaving something on the table, like when you're not executing on some of those ideas. What are your thoughts on that? And how do you think people can also like navigate it? Because I think for ambitious people that have ideas, I think that's one key danger. That's the cons.
And one of the risks of it is that because you have so much ideas and because of the pace you move, you can start something, you can have a high chance of starting something without finishing it. Because by the time you start something and you're on it, another idea comes and you're like, that's a very exciting and wonderful idea. And you're like, you need to, this is what is going to change the world. And you have the risks of leaving that and jumping onto this one. And for people, I don't know, for someone like me, creating ideas and building something is really exciting for me. And I get easily bored with something. So if I'm doing something and I'm like, oh, I can lose interest in it and I want to find the next exciting project to be on. But that's when discipline comes into place, because nobody becomes successful by jumping different things and knowing when to take a pause on something and build something to a place where you can include another thing, And so for ambitious people, I think people struggle with that, but it's something that they don't really talk about. And for me, I didn't even know I had that until I reached a point where I started building Mom and Me, and I could just see I had this idea and I had that idea and I wanted to do this and I wanted to change this and I wanted to do that for men. And I was like, I can't build anything substantial by jumping through ideas. It's good I have the idea. If it's something I need to write down for the next maybe 10 years time or something that I do when we build this structure. But you need to understand that just like you said, some ideas are not yours. Know when to write it and say, okay, that's good. And for people who easily get bored with things, you start something and you find out that you start with excitement and then along the line you're like, okay, I'm never seen this, let me just leave it. That's the downside of very, very, would I say, with people that have very, just like you said, not just ambitious people, but people that love ideas and they love building things. Because if you notice that you love building things, it means once you start progressing towards, let's say, building a business and you reach that part that is boring, that part that nothing is working, okay, you've done the content creation, you put it out there, nobody's buying what you've put, and you're like, okay, I think I've made a big mistake. And that time you think you should go back and start another one, because that excitement of the face, the face or the first beginning part of the business is what it gets to you. That's why some people don't build something substantial over time. So when I noticed that, I knew that I had to work on it. I knew that, I had to learn how to stay on something. But there's something you asked me. I also want to talk about that. I can't remember. There was something, which was the main reason, or the main
Oh, I was saying how to navigate that. I'm not sure if there's a particular thing I added onto that.
okay,
If
yeah,
we-
yeah, yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
think I remember, and it's also good. I remember it clearly now. When you have a vision, people will tell you what that will look like. Oh, that's a very exciting project you've started. How about, have you thought of maybe you should add this and add that? And people will tell you what they think the project should have. It's okay to take some things, because the ideas that people have given me my RAM, like, yes, that's what I think we need, that, and then I implement it. But then there are some that people would give you that takes away the trajectory of your business or what you call things. So for example, the idea that the person gave me about men is not a bad idea. It's really something exciting, something that maybe in the next future we could even branch out and do or something. But imagine the whole journey we've taken for the last 1 year building Mylora for women. And then all of a sudden you see us we've always spoke about how we're including men in it and we've said it. But then imagine the core Mylora this changed to now Mylora this and men movement, something like that. Then the confusion then starts. So it's like knowing when people are giving you ideas, good, but it's not for you to accept and add it to your own vision. That's what I wanted to add.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, that was the other point, that people always, once you share what you are working on, people always yeah, I'm pro mentoring, but like the whole thing,
Yeah,
I feel like you need to have your self agency before you share your vision out loud with people, so that you'll be
true.
able to discern, okay, this is what I should, like you're saying, this is what I should
Mm,
add, and this is what I can hold off on. This is what the person saying it has your best intention, but no, not now, later. Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people kind of need that self agency. When people approach even mentoring, they approach it with, the person will tell me what to do, but that's not the
Mm,
right. And
true.
you build other people's vision and not yours. And you also touched on the thing about starting, the beauty, and I also struggle with that. The amazing thing of like starting off projects. I love
Excitement. Yeah.
I would design all the slides, but halfway through the execution, I'm like, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Are
Yeah.
you sure?" I'll not be praying and say, "God, if it's not you, just tell me." And you're just looking for ways to kind of quit.
Yeah.
I know some of the people I listen to, Cody Sanchez talks about it that yes, winners are quitters. You should know when you quit on something that is not working for you. But you should also know that there are some things that are not working for you, but you need to see it through to the end. You need to, winners
True.
are also finishers. You need to
True.
balance out two. How do you know which is which? You need to know when to continue and when to quit, right? That
Yeah.
discerning, I think everybody really needs that, right?
True.
Um, Somebody typed hello here. Do you have any question? I think we're closing up soon. We already have Dr. Patience here for 1 hour and she's a busy person. I don't know if you have any question. Someone is joining us from LinkedIn. Let us know if you have any question, but she can always take your questions much later. Dr. Patience, any closing thoughts? So type in the chat. Hopefully, yeah, you're done typing before finishes speaking. Any final thoughts for ordinary people, regular people who want their life to count, who want to impact their society? Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. And what I would say is, do it afraid. Do it imperfect. Start it. You don't have to have it all figured out for you to start building anything. You just have to have the idea and the audacity to start. Sometimes we put ourselves down even before we start something because we feel like, who am I? Do I even have the quality to go out there and speak to someone? Do I have the quality to, even when it comes to as little as posting something on LinkedIn, you want to post a topic and you're like, why should I even post this? Do I even know so much about this topic? People know so more than me. Why should I put that? But it's just, you need to do it. People who are bold about, when you look at it, some people who don't even have the right information are bold about speaking up about it. And how much more you, who, this is something that maybe you've been working so hard for, you've been thinking about, you've grown into, and then you're scared to put yourself out there. You need to be visible as well. Nobody builds anything, unfortunately, now that we have internet. Visibility is key. I've always been someone who didn't want to. When I tell people, sometimes people don't believe it, but I'm an introvert. People don't believe it because I'm always somewhere, talking and speaking about my Laura and all of that. But you have to know when to show up and show yourself. Without visibility, it's hard for people to find you. I always tell people, most of the speaking engagement or most of the things, even my Laura, people who have found my Laura was just through me being visible, whether on Instagram or LinkedIn. I started talking about my product. I started talking about my building, the imperfect journey, sharing everything. People found me, invited me to come and speak in places where before I was like, okay, I always knew this was going to come, but how do I get there? So visibility is important. Don't undermine what you think, because sometimes you see people, with all the English, license, and you're like, oh, I don't know anything. What do I put out there? You know something. You can start somewhere. And people are scared to even put out, the building phase because somebody will laugh at them, that we always have friends. They're like, what do you even know? Who are you? You need to block your ears to what people think about you. If you want to go for fine life, you need to make sure your voice is louder than the voice of the people outside. If you believe in something, an idea, there's so many times when we started building my Lura, I was like, who would actually use this app? Silent voice in my head, like, will someone actually download this app? Why would they download this app? Like, who do you think you are? And all of that. But I had the audacity to say, all I believe in is I believe in this app. I believe in what I'm going to do. I'm going to be visible. I did a 30-day challenge on LinkedIn. I was posting every single day on LinkedIn on topics that I knew about. So on Black women's health, I was talking about public health. I was talking about just things that I knew that I had skills in. Within 30 days, I jumped from having 500 followers to about 2,100 followers within 30 days. But it was just because I had the audacity to bet on myself and put myself out there. Nobody's going to do the work for you. People are scared. Sometimes that's why people are, always hiding. You go for a lot of programs, you join a lot of webinars, you watch videos about um, building and all of that. For how long will you be doing all of that? You cannot execute what you think you know until you start. Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid of doing it. You fail, and so what? You put it out there, it doesn't work out. You make a post, nobody likes it first. Okay, has the world ended? Keep posting it. Keep putting yourself out there. Keep making those videos. Keep talking about it. One day, consistency is what takes us to actually what makes us successful. Because one day, you look at the journey when you started. When I started posting my LinkedIn on my LinkedIn, and then now I have over 5,000 followers. I see, I'm not still there yet, but I know the consistency that took me from having zero followers. If you know the number of amount of times I've changed my bio within that, and that was before I even started building my Dora. If it changed, because you'll not be the same person that you are today next year. If that happens, change your bio. If next year you have more distance, change it. If you have more clarity on your product, adjust it, put it there. But don't wait till you have it all figured out, you have all the business proposal, you have this, and then you put yourself out there. I think that's number one killer for young people. And then believe in yourself. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Dr. Patience. You really shared a lot of amazing stuff. And I also think the thing about you touched on a lot of things. One of the key things I emphasize is the part that you said about change, right? Most times we feel like how we started is so we're obsessing about perfection because we think that that is how we're going to remain for a long period of time, forgetting that as we get perfect, as we update, as the vision gets clearer, you're going to keep changing. This is about
Yes.
changing value. You're going to keep updating and updating. It's never the first one that you scale through to. Even when you get 100,000, you're going to revise. There's a
True.
big craze I've been following on LinkedIn. Before, what she had was content creation. Now she has found that because you keep evolving and you never know where you're going, but just start imperfectly, start however, wherever you are. And you also touched on visibility. I think I was speaking to a couple of youths that are building community-based program. I was just like, someone saying, "How do you raise money?" I said, "Go on social media." Now it's different from like when we started. They'll say, do grant, pitch, write proposal. You are going to get visible, and you're going to tell people what you're building, you're going to tell them to come and fund it. That's
Of
the only
course.
way now,
Nobody
right?
invests in someone they don't see. People have to see, you have to be there. You have to think about your product.
Exactly. You have to really be visible. Unfortunately, that's the way our world has changed, and we as a society have accepted that's the way forward. So we need to play the part, right?
Sure.
Thank you so much, Dr. Patience. I absolutely enjoyed speaking with you, and we touched a lot on healthcare, and which is really important, right? And why you are passionate about healthcare and you also gave us, and I hope anybody that is watching this as a healthcare, somebody does something, and please